The earth sinks in the waves. The sun eclipses itself. The stars commit suicide in docile ellipses. Everything burns and everything vanishes in the strange atmosphere. The sky puts on the colors of winter roses. It's a village lost at the frontier of the invisible, swallowed by a horizon of snow, of fog, and of mountains. A last point of rally before the void, and then nothing else. Ice, wind. Miles of solitude distance this village from the last sketch of a road. It used to have a name. Everyone has forgotten it. It is only by hazard if one reaches it. Erased from all the maps by the passage of time and snow, it stretches, long garden of gray stones at the entrance of a small valley of naked trees and frosted cascades. An old rifle, a weaver's loom. Here, no form of technology has prevailed. Here, not the steam trains nor the telegraph can arrive. Every day, hunters go to lose their way in the plains and the forests. Every day, they return. Sometimes, a house becomes available.
As you can see, today's demo is Winter Voices, an isometric adventure RPG from what I guess is a French company, as the license agreement buttons were in French. It's being released serially on Steam for £3.50 an episode, and is currently up to episode 4. Between the quotation from the Voluspa at the start and a raven perched on a telegraph pole that has more than a slight resemblance to a skull, there's a distinctly doom-laden Norse feel to the proceedings. As this is an RPG, the first thing we do is create a character, in this case by selecting one of 3 professions. The title of Volva, given to the third one, enforces the Norse feel. There were wandering seers and shamans back in ancient Norse times. Going for a hunter here because it sounds the most likely to see me through the demo safely. The attributes are all mental, and in the hunter's description it said that physical ability played no part in combat, so whatever we fight, it's either not going to be normal humans, or it's going to be social rather than physical combat. Now that's done, it's time to select your portrait and choose how you look in the main game screen. None of these girls really look as if they're all there, do they? And yes, they are all girls. In common with most adventure games and a lot of newer RPGs, you are playing a set character, though you get to decide how they behave in the game world. Right, that's enough of that. You probably aren't watching this to see me play electronic Barbies. On the off chance that you are watching this to see me play electronic Barbies, I recommend watching my City of Heroes character generation video instead. Okay, we're going to call her Brunhild after the Valkyrie.
Leaning against the frozen brook, a little further out, a small house hangs over the west part of the village. A man is standing out front. Next to him, a little girl is sitting on a wooden chair. They are not speaking. From time to time, she glances at him, curious, in silence. As you're approaching them, you recognize her. She is you. You must have been 7, maybe 8. It was, most likely, a day in October. The man who is standing next to you is your father. He does not smile at you. Impassive, he stares straight ahead. With such clear blue eyes, one would think they are white. Your story begins here and now, on these motionless lips, under this cold stare, which fixes the horizon and leaves no room for compromise. Under this stare that does not seem, and has never seemed, to grant you any significance. Your story begins on a day in October. What do you have left from this moment in time? The little girl fled on a night of weariness. She disappeared in the fog many years ago, and you have never talked about it since, and she was never seen again. The man has not changed. 15 years later, lying in bed, worn out, he would still look out the window, his face turned towards the light. Even yesterday, on a day in November. You don't quite remember at which point he closed his eyes. But even afterwards, a long time afterwards, it seemed to you as if he was still looking.
I think she ran away from the village and has just returned due to the death of her father. I've disabled the tutorial because I played the demo earlier but had to re-record due to resolution problems. The tutorial is quite good and does seem to tell you everything you need to know to get started. There's our character sheet. Seems to all be pretty standard stuff. This is combat. We start with a bunch of abilities, all seem pretty self-explanatory. Interestingly, our goal is just to escape, not to destroy them. I've used the flight ability to give me an extra movement point. We're also being blocked by one of the shadows, so I use the repel power to move it out of the way. On the shadow's turn, they start speaking to me. Right, so we've escaped that room, and we're now in the living room, and... okay, living room's turned nasty too. As you can see by the names of the enemies, they seem to be representations of Brunhild's current emotional state. Apart from being purely defensive, combat tactics are pretty standard. Debuff your enemies, buff yourself, and plan your moves around a power point and movement point economy. It looks like we can use as many skills in a turn as we want, as long as we have the power for it. There wasn't any mention of Brunhild's mother in the opening cutscene, was there? It's interesting that you have conversation options like burst into tears, so I didn't try them to see if it changed the response or course of the combat. That was relatively harsh. Mothers, even hallucinatory ones, really do know how to hit you where it hurts. This is rather beautiful, isn't it? I really do like the graphics in this. They're far more suited to the story that seems to be going on than hyper-realistic 3D gubbins would be.
I stepped into an avalanche. It covered up my soul.
What we have here is a trap. In this case it represents buried pain. The last of our current skills, detection, now comes into play. As you can see, it's highlighted everything. You can autopath in combat, but Brunhild won't avoid the traps if you do that, so in this case it seems best to move her square by square.
What are you doing outside, in the cold? Are you leaving? And yet, someone waited for you here, for a long time. You should leave. I am too old to leave. Only one destination remains open to me. One possible journey. I have wasted too much time. Isn't that what you should do? Don't you want to, anyway? It's in your nature. It was in your mother's nature. It is in mine.
This combat plays out pretty much the same as the previous one, but the memories don't talk to Brunhild this time.
Gently, in the cold of November, your breath forms a heavy fog, which rises now and then.
I skipped ahead here simply because I'm a fast reader. The voice work, though sparse, is well done.
Everything goes away.
And ding! This is an RPG after all. First, attribute points. Next, skills. The skill tree is vast and snowflake-shaped, again enforcing the winter theme. The powers seem to be themed according to their placement on the snowflake, with more negative-sounding powers at the top and sunnier ones at the bottom. XP is gained for talking to people, as it's a short JRPG style one-liners like these two guys. Or a longer, more interactive conversation with that couple. Finally, a quick look at the map. At the moment we only know our village. There's a couple more people that you can speak to in the demo, and it ends when you try to leave this area to see the Volva. Overall, the game is gorgeous and makes very good use of voice and music. The main character seems a bit passive and disconnected at the moment, but that might change in the full version and as you get different conversation options and progress through the story.